What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 587 of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast, Hot Tags of the Week. We're going to be breaking down some of the current events and rumors and news and gossip and TV recap and everything else that went down in the world of pro wrestling over the past few days that we feel like talking about right now. And who are we? Well, I am Tony Mango, joined by Callum Wiggins.
Hello there.
And Robert DeFelice.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about everything leading up to AEW Revolution that we haven't talked about. We're going to be giving our predictions for NXT Roadblock for next week, recapping some of the stuff on Raw and last week's SmackDown and everything that we feel like talking about. Usual kind of thing here. We got some other hot tags to toss in as well. And as we go along here and we tell you what we think about all these topics, we want to know what you have to say. So drop your thoughts in the comments below on YouTube. And while you're over there, hit the like button, hit the share button, hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. That way you get those email alerts of when we go live for things like our pay-per-view point post show coming up on Sunday night, immediately after AEW's Revolution pay-per-view, but also when we decide to randomly go live, because I think we might be doing a little bit more of that going forward. I kind of thought, hey, the other day, maybe just kind of going live for the sake of it. I ended up not doing it, but that was just because I got busy. But I might do that and just kind of start doing that for both that and Fanboys Anonymous. So, of course, like and follow and share and subscribe, all the other good stuff on that. Make sure that you are taking part in our Smark Madness tournament that's going on right now. That is the first of the hot tags for me to mention right now, is that the Best Wrestling Family Dynasties round 1 part of the tournament is up. And just to very quickly break down what's going on with that. And, we're not going to give you our full assessment of what we would vote for and everything, but generally speaking, we got the Anawais against the Hardy family, which was one of the qualifying round picks that you guys had chosen. Now, I know that we all have different positives and negatives when it comes to the Hardy family. I know that my wife recently has been getting into Rebby Hardy's TikTok account for the whole goth baby thing. And then eventually she was like, oh crap, this is like a pro wrestling thing. That's kind of weird. Anawai versus Hardy. I got a feeling, of course, we're leaning more towards one way or the other, but we got Blanchard versus Steiner, Orton versus Smith/Roberts, Jarrett versus Fafita, Von Erich versus Finley, Armstrong versus Funk, Flair versus Vachon, the Wyndham Rotunda connection against Malenko. We got Bella and Laurinaitis was the other one that you guys had picked on the qualifying round, and they're going up against the Hart family, DiBiase's against the Rodriguez's, the Pafos against Guerreros, Hennig versus Briscoe, McMahon versus Snuka, Mysterio versus Garza, Rhodes versus Gunn, and Colon versus Rougeau. When it comes to this group, any particular standouts that you guys have that you're like, that's a real tough call, or hey, I would love to see that as an actual match or something? Any noteworthy matches for round 1?
The only one that stood out as I would like to see as an actual match was Pafo versus Guerrero. The Hearts better not lose to the Bella Laurinaitis connection. Don't need that in our lives. And the Colon and Rougeau might be the biggest toss-up to me.
Yeah, I think that's the one that I struggled the most when I was going to vote on that one. I'll spoil, I eventually went with the Clones, but that's probably the most even one. Maybe Armstrong versus Funk as well for me. Actually, maybe Von Erich versus Finley, because I'm not a huge Von Erich fan.
Most of these are pretty cut and dry for me. Like Anawai versus Hardy. I mean, we all like Matt and Jeff, but up against a literal dynasty of just generations of great wrestlers, and you can't.
Quality
if
and quantity
aren't in the final, then our voters have failed.
Yeah, I mean, I out of ones that you potentially have some fun matches with, maybe Mysterio versus the Garzas.
Mm-hmm.
That could be some fun lucha stuff. Guerrero versus Poffo. I kind of only want to see one match out of that. One. But it would be quite funny to see that, and then they tag in Chavo and
Lanny,
the genius.
Yeah, Lanny.
Boo! Go back.
obviously rest in peace, Lanny Poffo. And both of them, pretty much everyone in that group. That's depressing.
Yes.
God, how depressing is that? That Charbo's the only one that's alive out of all.
I mean, if you look at a lot of these families, there's not many that are still around on most of them.
Yeah, but I mean, I like some of them, but it seems pretty obvious which way a lot of them will be leaning. I think. I mean, I'd spoil it as well. You guys are pretty much saying it that we think that it's quite likely that it's going to be heading towards the Anoa'i versus Hart final, and there are only a few potential ones that could upset those.
Like McMahon's,
I'm interested to see what the Rhodes and the Von Erichs and the McMahons and potentially Flairs as well do. I think they could be like the only real contenders to it. Maybe Guerrero as well, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, so that is going to be up, and the way that I plan on doing this, probably going forward, on Thursday nights, I'm going to switch them over. And then on Fridays, when we do the hot tags, then we've got that to talk about. It's one of our topics. So round 1, up and running. Go ahead and vote for that over the course of the next few days. And cast your votes to see who moves on to round 2. And then we'll give a quick breakdown of that. And probably by the end of the tournament, when we do like the winner assessment and everything, we'll probably do a little bit more of an in-depth thing. Maybe it'll be a dark cast. Maybe it'll just be part of the hot tags. I don't really quite know exactly what my plan is yet, because my plans for the WrestleMania week are just completely chock full of stuff. And this is going to end a couple days after WrestleMania. So we'll see. But generally speaking, if you want to go back and check out the dark cast where we settled on the bracket for this, then go to patreon.com/smarkoutmoment or go to the join button over on YouTube and you can get access to the Darkcast here that way. We got a Pick a Poison coming up as well from Marquise. Just sponsored something right before we got started for this. So stay tuned for a Pick a Poison of big money Russellas for the fan tracks. I don't know if we're going to constitute it a fan tracks or a fan ounce table thing, because it is kind of wrestling related. It is just a movie. So it's either going to be on Fanboys Anonymous or it's going to be on Smark Moment, one way or another. We'll settle on that.
Under a mango tree somewhere.
Yeah, and once you like one thing under a mango tree and you sport another thing, whatever, you keep watering all the roots. Also, to get back to you guys a little bit, a little reminder of what's going on with our contest, sponsored by Fun.com right now. The Road to WrestleMania contest is for 3 different winners to win a Dusty Rhodes Funko Pop. So if you want to win that, not only should you be obviously doing the Smark Madness tournament on Smark Moment, which is on the sidebar, but right underneath that on the right-hand side is your link to be able to enter the contest on all sorts of different ways. You can do things like follow the Facebook and Twitter accounts and the YouTube channels and post things on, retweet on Twitter, and you can post stuff on Reddit. And I mean, there's a whole laundry list of different ways that you could do it, including actually the Pick Your Poison thing. So Marquise, getting part of the whole thing there, he got himself a couple different entry points. And you can pick up some merchandise on Redbubble and TeePublic to get some extra entry points and everything. So if you want to get yourself a little Funko Pop, there's some great ways to do that. And let's go to another hot tag topic right now. Well, this is not really something that we could dive too deep into, but it's something worth mentioning because it's part of the news that happened this week. Sonya Deville had gotten arrested, and this is one of those arrests that I do not think is going to affect her career whatsoever. Not like a DUI or, an abuse charge or anything. She was arrested for having a firearm in her car in like a parking garage or something. The attendant had come across it and called it in, and they found out that she doesn't have a license for it. The permit thing is different in different states, and she was in New Jersey at the time, and that's about it. I don't blame her for having that, based off of the situations that came in before. And as far as I'm concerned, I haven't seen anything that has indicated that there's any heat on her. I don't necessarily think that there should be. You guys think that anything's going to come out of this, or is it just sort of...
No, it was a police officer doing their job. Sonya's in the process of getting rid of the firearm altogether as it is, but she started carrying after, a certain life event that we all know about, and I don't think anybody can blame her for that, and it's just a matter of circumstance in this one.
Yeah, I think that, at least from what I've read, the people are understanding of why she had the firearm, so I don't think it's going to have any repercussions on her, like her positioning on TV or anything like that. It's just one of those things that needs to get rectified. Nobody's in the wrong in any of this situation. Like, at the end of the day, that it is an offence what she did, but it's not one that I think she's going to serve significant time for, or any time for, let's put it that way. So yeah, it's just one of those things.
As far as other news of like arrests and everything like that, the Jeff Hardy stuff we didn't talk about before. I don't remember if that was pre hot tags last week or if it came afterward, but his license is suspended for 10 years, I think is what it is. And obviously we've said many, many things in the past about our opinions about that, and it hasn't really changed over the course of that. We're all just kind of hoping that Jeff Hardy finally gets what he needs to be able to move on beyond PS, all this kind of stuff, and maybe some good news down the line. I don't know. That I think has more of an influence on somebody's career than what the Sonya Deville thing's going on. But we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, and Matt Hardy said on the most recent episode of his podcast they haven't discussed any potential return to wrestling for Jeff at this time, which is the right call. There's always a chance, but first and foremost, I hope Jeff is healthy.
So let's... Oh, good.
I was going to say that I think that, and again, people's mileage may vary because Jeff is a very popular wrestler, so that will encourage people to want him to see him back in the ring. But I think that realistically, at this point, if you are so inclined to want to see Jeff actually recover and get better, then probably keeping him as far away from a ring now is the best thing for him.
Yeah. So we'll track that story if anything else breaks about that. Talk about that in a future episode of the Hot Tags, I'm sure. Let's go to this. This is a trademark thing, and it kind of ties into AEW Dark in a different kind of way. We normally don't talk about what happens on Dark because it's usually just, here's a list of people who beat other people, and I don't watch it. So that's another thing too, to be like, this match was a real standout or anything. But AEW has trademarked QTV, or quality TV. And apparently it is a thing on Dark, but my mind went straight to QT Marshall doing something. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right. What's going on with this, Rob?
We're all... most people are assuming it's QT Marshall because the factory just sort of disappeared. I think he put out one tweet that sort of said it was a good run after they got jumped by the House of Black. So this quality TV thing, there's no real mention of it outside of two quick bumpers that if you watch TMZ in any way, you will know that they're directly just doing the TMZ logo, but it says QTV.
Is it that like now, if you go to kind of thing?
Yep, exactly. And just says QTV. Now, if you go to the Twitter, Quality TV AEW, they're promising only the real news on AEW. So I feel like what we could end up getting here is some kind of GTV vibe while also potentially making fun of some dirt sheets. Yeah, I think it's obviously QT and it could be a fun gimmick, GTV was fun for a while, and I don't know if it'll lead to anyone really getting over or anything, but it's a fun thing to do.
I don't think I had seen any of the GTV stuff. I think that was past my time when I was in like that lull and not watching anymore. It was like probably 2000 something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like 01, 02.
Yeah, it was probably while you weren't watching.
Because I wasn't watching from 2000 to 2006.
Maybe late 99?
Late 99 was when I stopped for the most part. So yeah, I mean, it might have been like right at the beginning of when I stopped watching.
It would have to be around that period because GTV was supposed to be Goldust thing, wasn't it?
It was supposed to be Goldust, yeah.
It makes sense with the G. And then, QT, there's not many people that would have the QT thing to go with QTV on this. I'm down for him getting the different type of gimmick. I don't know if it would be necessarily this one is what I would go with, but
he's one of those people that got fucked when Cody left because like everything he did essentially revolved around Cody.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm all for them getting a different chance and a new lease on life.
And I didn't like the factory. The Nightmare Family thing. That's so. Oh God, what was the version of it that Brandy had? The Nightmare Collective, was that the name?
Nightmare Collective, yes.
That was fucking atrocious. And then
hey, what happened to Mel? Where is Mel?
Yeah, Mel disappeared real fast. She was like the first person that they canned, I think, in the company. Her, Havoc. But they
have Havoc? Oh,
Jimmy Havoc?
The other one. I was thinking of Jessica.
Yeah, no, Jimmy Havoc. The Nightmare Collective thing I didn't like. I didn't really love the Nightmare Family in a lot of different ways, but it was the best version of that. And then when they went off with the factory, it was just QT Marshall and a couple guys, and they lost every match. So if QTV is a different thing, and if it pops up on AEW Dynamite, then I'll see it, but I'm not going to be watching Dark. Not going to be watching specifically for the QTV thing to be like, okay, let me tune in for that. But it could be fun. I don't know. I don't like TMZ, so that's another hurdle for me to get past. Whenever that show's on before SmackDown or Raw or whatever it is that airs, like, that's on mute for me. I'm not going to watch that crap. I don't care about, like, Selena Gomez is dating this person, and did you hear what Khloe Kardashian said about what? No.
Did you hear that Angela Bassett did the thing?
I did hear that Angela Bassett did the thing.
It was great.
Now I have that in my head.
Blame your wife because it hasn't left my head for the last week.
It's all Caroline's fault. We're getting that in our heads. Well, let's talk about a different form of quality TV. And that's a joke. The Bell Twins are going to host a show for Amazon Prime called Twin Love, about twins finding love, because that's what it's called. There's not a chance this is good. Well, let me put it this way. There's not a chance it's good for somebody like me. I'm sure that people that like this show will think that it's great, but hey, I don't like golf, and people love golf, so we all have different tastes. I can't possibly imagine enjoying this show.
You're the only one out of the three of us that is likely to watch this show. I can see Caroline getting to watch it.
No, it's not happening. I'm not watching. If I couldn't be bothered to watch Bellas with the Total Bellas and Total Divas after like the first 2 seasons of that show or something, I forget when I stopped, when I was just like, okay, this isn't going to get any better. And I don't watch Miss and Mrs. and I didn't finish watching Holy Foley even. I think I watched like 2 episodes of that. I never watched that Big Show.
Well, that wasn't reality. That was a sitcom.
No, but I mean, just in general, like the idea of like pro wrestling people on a show doesn't just immediately mean that I'm going to do it. And I'm sure that they assume that that's going to be the case, especially because, let's be honest, a lot of pro wrestling fans are just sort of on the dim side and just like, it's Nikki Bella. That's Brie Bella. I'm going to watch this because it's Bella's. And then, well, I shouldn't just say it's pro wrestling fans. It's everybody that's out there. We're all dumb. But I'm not watching this. Do you guys have any chance of tuning into this?
No, sir. No.
No, I will refuse. I think. I just don't know how it's gonna. Well, I know how it's gonna work. Perhaps it's gonna be shit like every single one of these reality dating shows. But what happens if like one of the dates goes really well and the other date goes really badly?
That's your hook.
Like, well, yeah, I know.
What are they gonna do?
That's the interesting thing. It's like one of the twins, one pair, well, one half of each of the twins is going really well, and then the other two hate each other, and then
that's totally going to happen. At least
and then you build a reality. Oh, so it's like reality show that creates a reality show because you do that, and then you build a reality show off of those couples.
Now you're thinking like they are, like,
and you call it twin flames because one's got the fiery heat of passion, and the other one's got the Twinferno. There you go.
Oh yeah.
Look at that. Why are we not getting paid for this shit? The other one hates each other with a fiery passion. The other one loves each other with a fiery passion. And
of course, you're going to do the gimmick where they trade off because the other twins are really hitting it off with the other twin. There's basic plot points that we're going to hit here.
You know that
put
meme
it on top of the Empire State Building, and so it's the towering twin burner.
Yeah. You know that meme of the conference where it's like a little cartoon and they're like, well, what can we do to like get profits up? And the guy suggests something that's very basic, so they throw him out the window.
Yeah.
I feel like this is what's going on right now with this conference. Well, we have no plans on watching this, but of course, if you want to sponsor that through Pick Your Poison,
please let us know if we're right, because I'm sure we are, because very basic stuff that should be going on here.
But what we do have plans on talking about is that our next main event after the pay-per-view point stuff for this weekend is going to be a discussion on wrestlers in movies and TV shows. We're going to focus a little bit more on movies than on TV shows, but we will talk about things like Young Rock. We're going to talk about I was going through last night and I was actually making up my top rope list and going through, there's a couple of different resources that are out there of like Cage Match has a list of like people that have been in TV shows and movies and all. And I was like, oh yeah, Big Show was in an episode of Burn Notice. I forgot about that. And, Candice Michelle popped up on an episode of this. And I forgot about how many people had been on Arrow or Smallville or whatever it was. So we will talk some TV stuff when it comes to that. Going to talk a lot about The Rock, a lot about Batista, some fun things about Roddy Piper and Hulk Hogan and all sorts of different pluses and minuses when it comes to wrestlers in Hollywood with our special combo edition, because it's going to have a little Mount Rushmore element to it. It's going to have some top rope lists, some going over, a lot of Hollywood discussion. And I mean, over the course of these next couple of days, you're also going to get that fan tracks thing. So a lot of quality TV and quality movies, not quite on the Twin Love side of things. But if you are a fan of that type of content and you want more from the Hollywood and geek culture and media entertainment like that, go to fanboysanonymous.com, like, share, favorite, follow, subscribe, all those good things over on the Blue brand. The more support you give to that, the more that I can apply to Smark Out Moment and vice versa. So hit up the Patreon for that. Go and follow on Twitter, subscribe to the YouTube channel, pay attention to things like the Blueprint Project. I finished writing out my script of how I'm going to read out the synopsis for Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 of the Batman nighttime story. So you will get your first 2 out of the 100 records from the Wayne Foundation archives coming up relatively soon. I might try to record that on this weekend. I don't know exactly how it's going to work out, but it's going to be a fun time. So pay attention to that on fanboysanonymous.com. Show your support for that in whatever way that you can. And let's go back around now to the last hot tag that I have that isn't related to TV or pay-per-views type stuff quite yet. But there are some rumblings that Brock Lesnar might be wrapping up his career and we might have his last match be against Omos.
I refuse this news. I don't care who it came from. I don't know who this news came from. I don't know if it's from Sean. If it is, I don't care. I refuse this. This would be atrocious. This would be the worst way to end Brock Lesnar's career. But I do think it is telling because really this booking with Omos and everything he's done since losing Heyman has really humanized Lesnar. And I think it's telling that he could even just be on at any point in this WrestleMania card. It doesn't feel like, well, this could be a main event. This is the first Brock Lesnar match since he's come back, really, 10, 11 years ago, where it's like, yeah, this is just a match. It's a match on a show.
Yeah, so got the a version of the story up. So this was a follow-up that PW Insider did to Fightful's report on something that we also can discuss, which is Brock Lesnar declining to wrestle Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania 39.
Smart man.
But they basically said that Lesnar was saying farewell to some people and he was quote unquote finishing up, and it wasn't actually super clarified what finishing up meant. There's also noted that Lesnar was not necessarily done on that night or even at WrestleMania. And yeah, so it's essentially saying that there's some rumors about it, but it's all a lot of speculation at this point. There's nothing concrete suggesting that the match with Omos will be his final match. But you would say
we're looking at some point in the next year, essentially.
At his age, he's done everything. He's earned more money than so many other wrestlers in the past. He lives on a farmland, and he basically just doesn't like people, and so he's now in the perfect position where he can just be on his farm with his wife in bed for hours at a time, whatever, and just live his life out there in the wilderness, in the Canadian wilderness. But yeah, it's kind of those things that no one has ever really retired in wrestling. So I'm sure if the money's right, he'd come back every now and again. But this may be, we're seeing a lot more of him, like in the last year or so, than we probably have done at other stages of since his return.
Mm-hmm.
He's featuring quite heavily. But yeah, I certainly echo Rob's point that I do not want to see his final match against Omos, particularly if he were to lose that match against Omos.
By the way, not a joke. This is the year. Put Sable in the damn Hall of Fame. Like, you're running out of women to put in the Hall of Fame, and Sable's a really good one. So put her in the Hall of Fame.
I'm curious why that hasn't happened yet. But then again, we're already March 3rd, and there's not been a single announcement for this year's Hall of Fame yet.
They're going to kick it in high gear within the next couple of weeks, I'm sure.
I think we've been talking about that for the past month, haven't we?
Well, no, because now it's March, and the way that they do it now, you have to remember, it's just going to be sports exclusive by Sports Illustrated. Batista's going in, or whatever.
They still have the Hall of Fame listed. It's supposed to be happening after SmackDown. It's not like they pulled that from there, so maybe this is going to be one of those years that they go like, fuck, we forgot about it. And then, well, we'll see who we can get or whatever. Or maybe it's just one of those things that they've got people locked down and nobody's talking about it. And they really do plan on just having basically something as simple as like, we got Batista. That's your reason to tune in. Everybody else is just sort of filler, and we'll come back around to it next year. But to me, it's like, well, it's Hollywood. Like, you should have, this should be Cyndi Lauper should be going in this year, and
Cyndi Lauper should have gone in a long time ago.
Yeah, long time ago.
Go ahead.
But like, there's,
who would be really cool, and I know a bit impromptu to just have this discussion. Find a way to put Goldust in there.
I
know
wish.
He's doing stuff with AEW, but find a way to put him in there.
Yeah, I would be totally down for that. Maybe even
he's gonna be at Mania anyway. No one's gonna stop him from being at Cody's main event.
Maybe even throw in Marlena too. And just be like, look, Terry's not somebody who's like, won the title a bunch of times or anything like that, but like that package gimmick or something. They did the Hollywood thing. Play into that.
Yeah, I don't know if they want to be inducted at the same time with one another, but you never know.
At the very least, like, I'd be down for the Goldust thing for that. They could wait a little bit. They don't have to with that, but like Batista seems like he needs to be announced. And then you should have Cyndi in there. You should have, there's plenty list of people. There's even a whole website dedicated to not in the Hall of Fame that we could get into, like, why is Bam Bam Bigelow not involved in there?
Hall of Fame?
I think he might have been put in there with the Hearts. I don't know for sure.
Not Pillman. Put the Hollywood Blondes in the Hall of Fame. What the fuck? You're in Hollywood. Just do it. Just do it.
Actually, he might not have been because they didn't induct Owen. So
yeah, go ahead and put the Hollywood Blondes in. You know what I mean?
Maybe this is the year that we finally get Jim Cornette or something. Like, highly doubt it. Obviously, that is the story that we will eventually talk about. We get to the point where it might just be at the last minute we talk about that. But
well, let's talk about the more interesting part of that story, which is how much Bray Wyatt sucks. People have said multiple times over, Brock is one of the smartest guys in the business. He knows how to make money, and he makes money really well, and he does it by doing very little. I don't say that do very little work. His matches are dynamic, if short. But it's a case of he's an entertainer, but he's an entertainer for a price, and he doesn't work by the hour. And so when he sees the opportunity of like, oh, you'll want to put me in the ring with that guy? No, thank you. I'll take on the giant that can barely move, and I'll do that match, and I'll get it in and out in 3 minutes, and I'll see you guys later on, maybe if and when I want to come back. I think that it's just another damning indictment of the fact of if Bray Wyatt is back and he's had one televised match since he's returned. It's this whole Uncle Howdy storyline has sucked, and it's made, I would say, like, made no sense, but like nothing's progressed really. It's progressed from Uncle Howdy attacking Bray Wyatt to now Uncle Howdy is his tag team partner or friend or ally or whatever you want to refer to it, because they can't be tag team partners because Bray Wyatt doesn't wrestle. And so to end up with this situation where you want to showcase this guy and put him against like one of your biggest draws, and the draw says, no, I'm not going to do it, that guy sucks. Or probably not words to that effect, but maybe that is his words. I imagine Brock wouldn't mind mincing his words about this. But he's like, yeah, I don't think I'll take on that guy, and I won't take on Gunther either. Or I'll take on Omos because, that just makes sense.
Was there any kind of confirmation about that he turned down the Gunther thing, or that they just went in a different direction?
Yeah, as I say, it's worth noting in the Sean report that while Gunther was penciled in November, there was no real clear-cut reason given as to why it didn't happen.
Yeah, I think we should also probably bring up the speculation that this was a Vince McMahon decision, or not a Vince McMahon decision, a Vince McMahon pushed for idea.
Which is certainly a possibility because, look, put it this way, Vince doesn't have to be officially in creative control and like sitting at a board of directors meeting with a pen and paper to be able to call the shots. He could very easily send a text message to Triple H and say, Omos versus Lesnar. And then that could be going around like that. Like, I mean, I actually, funny enough, you might be thinking I would go in the different direction here. I don't think that this is a Vince call.
Why?
I think it's one of those situations where people are looking for a rational excuse why Triple H could do something wrong. And Triple H isn't infallible. He is going to have some...
I think he's proved several times throughout this run that he isn't infallible. Right. It's not like this run has been, impeccable.
Flawless. Yeah.
But this feels very Vince because it's just, haha, he's big.
I think that is something that's like, it's clearly like Vince does do that kind of booking, but I think that that's kind of just pro wrestling in general does that booking here and there. And we even fall into those traps sometimes with our fantasy booking. And so I look at it more as like, this doesn't strike me as like Vince just said, hey, this is a match that I want to put my fingers on and you got to do this and whatever. And I'll sit out of all the other things. I look at it more as like, they probably just had a couple of options for Brock, and the Wyatt thing, maybe they had a plan for Wyatt versus Brock and then it went sideways. So then they decided, well, I mean, Lashley's the next best thing to do the same basic storyline of like him against a big muscular brute guy. Maybe that's what they plan on doing. We don't know what the whole Bray Wyatt element of this is because the story doesn't exist. Right now, he just did the Muscle Man dance thing, which was the bare minimum of like reminding you that this is a feud that's supposed to have a story to it, but it doesn't. So if we see something,
me as Lesnar said no, because it's so thrown together.
Right.
It's literally just throw the Muscle Man dance thing from a couple of years ago on the Titantron, throw in some Lashley clips, because it wasn't like a new Muscle Man dance. It wasn't like, oh, we're back with the Muscle Man dance. It was literally just throw the old video up there, plug in some shots of Lashley, and let's keep this ball rolling.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and this, because remember, he was supposed to work with Wyatt in 2016, never happened. I'm beginning to think that Brock Lesnar's just like, I ain't doing that dumb shit. I ain't doing no spooky shit.
Yeah, I don't want to act like I'm intimidated by this guy that's got these puppets and stuff.
Because even if you look at his shit with Undertaker, Brock doesn't really deal with spooky Taker.
Mm-hmm.
He interacted with Taker a couple times while Taker was the dead man. But the first time, Taker just stabbed him in the hand with a pen. That's a very real thing. Anybody could do to anybody. The second and third time, he kicked him in the balls. He hasn't really ever had to deal with the spooky shit. And maybe Brock is just like, no,
and I'm
not doing that.
I think a good part of that is there had been talks that they have some other kind of sponsored match in mind for Mania. And we don't know what the sponsorship deal is, but I mean, the last thing we saw was the Mountain Dew Pitch Black match. Snickers is the only thing that's been associated with WrestleMania right now. But if they're going to do something that's like, you know, hey, you're not feeling like yourself, have a Snickers. The character Bray Wyatt is one of those types of, you know, hey, I'm not feeling like myself, I'm going to eat a Snickers. And then now I'm like the Fiend version of me. And now I'm the Uncle Howdy version of me or whatever the fuck. They could have had this idea in mind of like, well, we want to do a special gimmick match with Bray Wyatt. And wouldn't it be fun? Maybe it's the WWE side. Maybe it's like the Snickers or whatever the fuck the sponsorship is. They could be like, you know, oh, it'd be great to see like him against Brock because Brock's like a big name and whatever. And that would really give a lot of attention to our product. Brock turns it down. So then they end up going, well, we can give you Lashley and whatever, instead of just going with what I would have done in that scenario, if that's true, which is, okay, well, let's put him with like Karrion Kross or something and finish out this Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar thing. But without seeing what the hell they have planned for the Bray Wyatt side of things, I am kind of leaning more towards that that's what's going on. And then that they just sort of tried to figure out another couple of alternatives for Brock. And they said, well, you know, we don't have somebody like an AJ Styles for you to fight, and there's no story there either. But we got Omos. You're feuding with Lashley. He's got the MVP connection. This sort of makes sense. It is something that looks like, hey, it's Brock versus a big guy. Theoretically, I would never have booked this. But if you're going to tell me that they would do Brock against like Elias or Brock against Mustafa Ali or, you know, any of these other people that are not booked yet on the card, even Baron Corbin, you know, I'm a Baron Corbin fan. I see more logic in the Omos thing than I do with most other options. Again, not at all what I would pick. I would certainly much rather see Brock Lesnar against a lot of other people for a better match and a better story. And just because it's, hey, you know, I'd rather see him have a 5-minute match against LA Knight than against, I don't know, Humberto. You know, like there's certain pecking orders, but the Omos thing kind of makes a little bit of sense to me. So I think that it's just, they had some other plans. They kind of fell apart and now they're trying to piece things together, and that just, there you go. I don't think it's a Vince thing.
You don't think this is like just, hey, we're celebrating 30 years of The Undertaker against Giant Gonzalez by putting another over guy against a giant nobody wants to see wrestle. Like,
no, I don't think, honestly, that anybody in WWE creative even knows that that's like 30 years since then. That's the type of thing that I think a lot of people that when, you know, like people like us, you know, I got my fucking statistics pages and stuff. Like we remember that stuff more. And you figure a lot of the people that are on the creative team probably didn't even watch 5 years ago. And then some of the other people that are even like the hyper, like Triple H knows his shit. He's studied this. He's been a fan forever. He's been in the business forever. I don't think he could be like, oh, coming up, this is the anniversary of whatever.
Well, I would hope that they weren't just like trying to pay tribute to an awful match.
Yeah.
But, you know,
I think if we were going to get some kind of tribute to an awful match like that, we would have gotten something with like Shanky, where it's just like a joke, you know?
Look, back to the Wyatt of it all. I think it's really, like, at this point, there's no coming back to this character. And this is the problem with Bray Wyatt, is they do this shit all the time where they'll go, oh, he just had that moment with The Undertaker. That was a big moment. He's passing the torch. That's super over. It's like, not if you're following it up with this.
Mm.
What is this? This is just literally a match. And it's one that's going to make everybody involved look silly. You know, like, you can book Wyatt well. It's just nobody wants to do that. And maybe, you know, not to put it all on the creative, even if it is Vince, maybe it's an issue of Wyatt thinks that this shit is deeper than it is.
Oh, I think that's definitely.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm not trying to knock the guy, because I do know that a lot of people have just taken to doing that, where it's like, okay, let's knock him when everybody was just clamoring for him to return. I just want it to make sense. And that's why I always say I miss the swamp cult leader with the Wyatt family, because that made sense. That was, you know, not hard to understand, and even a little culturally relevant, because it wasn't swamp people a thing at the time. You know, that era of Wyatt was so much better than. And this week we're adding 5 layers of lore. What does it all mean? We don't know. Moving on. Like,
a good analogy that I could use. Actually, there's 2. I mean, I had mentioned before in our group chat outside of the podcast about how the Bray Wyatt story follows a lot of what the Star Wars sequels have been, where they have no plan and then they just sort of, hey, wait until it finishes out before you criticize it. And then when you get to the Rise of Skywalker, then everybody goes, well, I mean, fucking stop hating the thing I hate. You know, a lot of people really like Bray Wyatt. And a lot of people really wanted to like the Star Wars movies, and that they just are going to make excuses for it, whatever. But another analogy that just popped in my mind, that for anybody who's seen the movie, it'll probably hit them. If anybody hasn't seen it, I would recommend not. Mulholland Drive is the Bray Wyatt thing. It's a lot of something that's interesting happening, and then the next thing you know, the movie's over. And then when you go, wait, what the fuck did I watch? Then when you look back and go, well, I mean, they had plans for this to be this, and this was kind of a pilot for a TV show, and they set this up for no reason, and that was just something to throw you off, and whatever. And you go, oh, so it's a bunch of shit. Okay. It's just, you know, it's the equivalent of somebody that's stoned out of their mind talking about philosophy. It might sound like it's interesting, and they might seem like they have a good idea. And at the end of the day, they're really just spitting out nonsense. So if I'm Brock and I'm like, hey, I don't want to do the spooky shit, and I also know this match isn't going to be good, and this isn't leading anywhere, and I'm not invested, yeah, I'll pick up the fucking big guy. And that's about it, you know?
Yeah, what else can you really add?
Yeah. Now, if we get any kind of further clarification that he is leaving and that this is his last match, it's even more so. I don't want to see Brock against Omos as the finish for that. Probably would have rather have seen them just push Gable Steveson up. Maybe do that. At least try to make him seem like he's going to be a thing. Even if he's not ready yet, have Brock do the match, you know? But I'm kind of looking at it as this makes more sense than I would like to admit. I don't like it. You're going to be hearing over the course of the next 5 weeks a lot of me going like, he'll pick up Omos, he'll do the fucking move, and that's the end of it. Moving on. But I don't think it's a Vince thing. At the end of the day, you know, conspiracy, tinfoil hat, what's your projection? Is it or is it not a Vince call?
No, I'm going to say no. I'm blinders on, but I'm hoping that Vince is genuinely just far away from creative.
I'll say it's not definitively a Vince call, but I think that he would have at least put forward the idea of this.
Yeah, he might have like pitched like, well, I don't know, how about these options or something? Yeah.
I mean, he's probably been putting out. I'd say, like, I can imagine a world where he's been saying this is a potential option with, like, just Hunter maybe asking him, well, what would you do with Brock? And say, oh, I'll put him with Omos. And Triple H said, oh, okay, I'll take 100 Wiseman. And then because essentially, if this report is correct and all the reports that be coming out that it was essentially going to be Bray Wyatt versus Brock up until the day of Elimination Chamber itself, when Brock just said, nah. And then they switched it to that lane DQ finish. So yeah, I don't think it was just a case of like Vince just saying, no, I definitely want to have the Omos match, do it, and it got greenlit. I think it was just saying that was done as an alternative that they could reasonably put together in that time.
Yeah, because everybody, you got to put yourselves in their shoes too. If you run into a situation where plans change, it might come off like, oh my God, this was your plan the whole time. This is stupid. This comes out of left field. And sometimes it just is as simple as like, look, something got in the way and we had to figure out an alternative, whether it's like an injury or it's, you know, this person couldn't show up. I mean, look at the Trish Stratus situation. I don't know what the hell they're thinking with that. I don't know why they didn't bother to do this, but this probably should have happened weeks ago because the Lita and Becky Lynch thing, the cage match was supposed to happen on that Raw special. And then they just decided not to do it. They ran out of time, whatever it was. I don't know why they couldn't have cut other things on the card. Would have made a little bit more sense to me. But they pushed that. And then now we're in the situation where Trish would have made more sense to pop up in Canada. They pushed it to the next week and she just runs out for the sake of it. We'll talk about that when we get into, I guess we should transition and talk about that because, I mean, we backtrack with other things, but the way that Monday Night Raw ended was that the Dakota Kai and Io Sky Damage Control defending the tag team titles against Becky Lynch and Lita match had this spot in it where Trish just runs out and she helps even the odds and we get new tag team champions. I had thought that maybe it would go a different direction. Maybe it would be Dakota and Io retain because of Bayley, and then that's when Trish comes out, and that leads to whatever. But it seems like their plan, at least from what I can surmise, is that they wanted to have Becky Lynch and Lita hold the belts because they can say that they did. You have them go in as champions. That seems a little bit better for the marquee. Not to crap on Dakota Kai and Io Sky, but look, I mean, it's Becky Lynch and Lita. There is a pecking order. And maybe Dakota Kai and Io Sky are also in that match against Ronda and Shayna, maybe some other teams, I don't know. They could just be like, well, we want a shot at getting our belts back. Could be like that. Seems like we're getting Bayley versus Trish. Could be night one, we get Damage Control in like the three of them against the Becky Lynch and Lita and Trish. And then night two, we get Becky Lynch and Lita against Ronda and Shayna. Would be the craziest thing. But the Trish thing just goes to show, like, things can change, and it might seem like it makes no sense because it didn't make sense from the beginning of the story. That's why I plot out a lot of my Blueprint Project stuff way in advance. And I can go, oh, okay, well, that's why you're referring to him as Apollo and stuff. I'm getting, putting out my teasers. So when it comes to the Trish situation and Damage Control and the tag titles, what you guys thinking about that?
The moment was fine. It was cool to see Lita win a title in 2023. The moonsault looked very well, surprisingly. Some of the other stuff was a bit iffy, but
I was going to say some of it didn't.
You know, I think it's cool that she's holding a belt. If I'm fantasy booking, she's teaming with Trish, and that's what I would have done, but I understand. Put her in a team with Becky. Becky can do 90% of the work. Trish and Bayley's cool. Like, this is a cool... I'm thumbs up on this, but I would have flipped it and had... Find a big match for Becky. Find a big match for Becky and Bayley to do in a singles, so that way it's your two horsewomen clashing in a match that doesn't have to be for a title, and then you can have the legends holding the women's tag titles and lose it to, I presume, Ronda and Shayna.
I assume part of it's because they want Becky to hold down the fort for the match.
Yeah, that's what I think it is as well.
It was a good moment for like a certain fan base. I've always never shied away from the fact that I don't think Lita is good. I think she's she was a bad wrestler in her prime, and nowadays she is a bit reckless, a bit sloppy, to say the least. Because now she doesn't even have any reps going into it, and the moonsault was good. And last year, it fueled my rationale that Becky Lynch is one of the greatest women's wrestlers of all time. That she managed to have a decent match with Lita. So I think that if you put the title on these two, it's a bigger deal. It pretty much guarantees that Becky's got a spot on the WrestleMania card. Seemingly to lose the tag titles, because I don't imagine that this is like a long-term tag team championship reign. I imagine it maybe even go just one match longer. But I think that, but it's just like, it's a cool thing to see at the end of Raw, like a legend that so many fans revere holding the championship, and Becky's super popular as well. It means Becky's finally got to be a tag team champion, which is the one thing that I say the one thing, she's never been NXT Women's Champion either, but like she's won all the women's titles on the main roster now. So she gets to tick that off. Lee gets to be a tag team champion. You get to build towards Trish and Bayley, which would be a big match for Bayley to be part of. So there's not really much wrong with this at all.
Do we think there's any chance that we're overthinking it and there won't be a singles match and it's just a 6-woman tag?
Like I said, I think that there's a chance that we get that for night one. But that's only if they follow it up with night two. Is Ronda and Shayna are winning those belts at Mania. So either they do double duty, or it ends up being Becky and Lita against Ronda and Shayna and Damage Control is not involved. Or they do Becky, Lita, Dakota, Io, Ronda, Shayna, potentially plus some other people. Put up a thing on EWN the other day about just like who's not booked on the card yet. And I was like, God, man, there really is a lot of people that don't have anything. Like, officially Austin Theory and John Cena is not yet scheduled, but we know it's going to happen. And Logan Paul versus Seth Rollins
announced as soon as Monday.
Yeah, Logan Paul versus Seth Rollins is not 100% set in stone, but that's going to happen. Technically, Bobby Lashley versus Bray Wyatt, not set in stone, but it's going to happen. But then you look at other people and you're like, they got nothing going on for some of these guys, and especially a lot in the women's division. Like, we haven't seen Alexa in a long time. We haven't seen anything going on with Raquel. There's nothing going on with Liv. There's a lot of just maybe like 60% of the roster is just not going to be on Mania this year, and that seems kind of crazy. But I do think that there's a chance we get the double duty situation, and I don't know if they plan on doing it that way or not, just to be able to be like, look, we got both things in and it's not as messy. But they're certainly not building towards anybody being a part of the Ronda and Shayna group to make it like 3-on-3-on-3. So other things that happen on Raw were most of them just kind of a thing. Like the Usos, if you go in a different formation of the Usos against the Street Profits, Cody Rhodes had a good match with Chad Gable. You guys think they're splitting Gable and Otis? They are doing the whole Maximum Male Models thing with Otis, which I think is fun. But it could just be like a tease and that they don't actually do it.
Well, Chad Gable's getting a push as a singles because Triple H likes him as a single.
Yeah, I think that's what I'd seen the reports going out there as well. But I heard they might be a bit. Well, Gable and Otis are a bit hesitant about it because they don't want to split up the tag team.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems to be they are going in the direction of Otis being part of Maximum Male Models. And I mean, I would be super down for Chad Gable to get a good run as a singles guy, whether he's heel or babyface, because that's before I think he is he's not obviously at that same level, but I think that he's got a lot of the same things that you can compare Kurt Angle to. Like he's just got those intangible qualities. Obviously, he's a great mat wrestler, but he also does high flying. He does a fantastic moonsault, and he's a great character. He's got great promos. I think he's the closest thing we've ever seen to Kurt Angle coming back. And So yeah, I think that it's time that he gets a push and becomes main event guy. Well, not main event, but like at least an upper mid card guy. I mean, I would be totally down for him to be the guy that beats Gunther for the IC title,
or Austin Theory for the United States title.
Yeah, be a long running US champion. Yeah, I think it's about time with him. I think he's earned it, especially with like that match with Cody was so good. It was one of the best matches of the entire week on any promotion. Like he just knows how to make matches great, and obviously Cody's great as well. I mean, you see that like awesome Cody cutter into one of the greatest sells I've ever seen of the Crossroads. It's like, yeah, I think he's earned his stripes. It's time that he moves up the card.
I agree.
We're all in agreement there, and I don't think we have anything that maybe we're not in agreement about this, but I don't think we really have too much to say about this whole Candice LeRae, Nikki Cross, Gargano, Dexter thing. It's just sort of something's happening there, and we'll see where it goes, right?
Yeah, that's where I entered the who cares territory.
Yeah, it's not. I'm a big fan of a lot of them, but it's not hooking me quite yet. Neither is the idea of Carmella being in the middle of the feud of Asuka and Bianca Belair.
Yeah, that's
awful.
We've talked about this for multiple things for multiple years now. It sucks when they've got a match leading into Mania and they go, it's person versus person. Let's throw another person in there because we don't know what to do for 6 weeks.
And I want to make it clear, we're not knocking Carmella, or at least I'm not knocking Carmella.
No, I like Carmella.
I'm not knocking her over. I think that she's like she has a place and she's very talented, and so like especially with her mic work. But I just don't think you've got two of your like top tier women's wrestlers, like Asuka with this new character shift is like just grown in popularity and is being portrayed as more dominant than ever. Why can't you just build it around those two? Why do you need to have Carmella getting involved to probably have another inevitable match with Bianca Belair, which seems to just be just endless? They will always fight each other, and Belair will always win those matches.
The go home Raw is going to be Bianca and Asuka against Chelsea and Carmella. Can they coexist? Of course they will, and then one will turn on the other and point to the sign.
Asuka will spit in Bianca's face.
Knock her out and point to the sign.
Yep. So we just saved you 5 weeks worth of episodes of Monday Night Raw. Next week, Bianca fights
Carmella and Chelsea could very well enter, and with the way that certain things with the women's tag titles are, they could win the match at WrestleMania and become women's tag team champions. It's just, I don't need this in my world title feud where both women are just dominant women. Have them, if you're going to have them in action, just have them beat people real quick. The other one could be watching. And then you do a montage where they train and they're athletes. They're good. This is what you're watching. This ain't the main event of the show. This is what you're watching. They're good wrestlers. Let them go. I get why you're dragging it out. I just wish that they didn't constantly feel the need to do this going towards your biggest show of the year.
Also, Lashley beat Elias. That's just kind of one of those.
Yeah.
And Rick Boogs was taking notes, and I think that that's one of the funniest things, one of the funniest little ongoing bits that they have.
They totally have to name them that. I can't shout out the person because I don't know off the top of my head, but whoever had suggested it on Reddit to name them Rhythm and Boogs. That's the perfect name for it. I liked a lot of the other suggestions, like the 2-man power chord and different things, but Rhythm and Boogs is perfect. I don't care if you groan and you roll your eyes. Fuck you.
That's really good.
So let's switch over to NXT. Talk about the things that happened there. Talk about our predictions for Roadblock. That's going to be happening next week. Started off with an open challenge from Wesley. He retained over the returning Nathan Fraser. That was not expecting the Fraser would be the guy that would do this. I thought it was going to be Stax so that they can incorporate that. But we've talked before about the idea that maybe they end up doing another one of those multi-man ladder matches, and it could be Wesley, Nathan Fraser, Dijak, Tony D'Angelo, a couple other people. I mean, maybe they just toss some other people in there, but they had a match. Wesley won. There's not much else for me to talk about on that front.
Yeah, I'm beginning to think that maybe Wesley won't be defending in a ladder match.
What are you thinking instead?
Thinking he likes doing these open challenges. Let Dragon Lee answer it and beat him at Stand and Deliver.
Could be. I think they're going to do something else with Dragon Lee and come back around to that with our predictions for Roadblock. But Axiom had a thing backstage with Hank Walker so they started off the night with people brawling to try to get to the open challenge, and Axiom was all pissed, saying that Hank Walker stopped him from doing that and he shouldn't have even bothered because he wasn't going to beat Wesley anyway, which upset Walker. So they eventually had a match. Axiom beat Hank Walker. Could be a potential heel turn for either of those two in the future. Could just be one of those. This would be kind of interesting types of things. I think if what's that?
You did see what happened at the end of that match, didn't you?
Yeah, I was gonna say you did see that, didn't you?
Am I missing something?
Did you not see the person standing at the top of the ramp when
Did you not see Scripps?
Axiom was celebrating his victory?
No, I didn't see that Scripps was there.
Yeah, just stand it because they didn't actually point out to it or anything.
Oh, that's why I must have. Yeah.
He was just standing there menacingly, just like.
Was he like trying to do like an intimidating thing to Axiom, or is it more like we're finally
just standing there looking at him?
All right, fucking team them up, make them the jobber, flippy guys to get tossed around by people. Do it.
I mean, I don't want to making the jobber guy. Axiom's really good.
Yeah, at this point, I'm past it. I think
Scripps
that the
good. Hey, I can't say a lot of good things about Scripps, but he does flip.
Yeah, he could have a lot of fun flips when he gets tossed around by other teams.
Also, Axiom put his head on Walker's knee. It was just like, you're going to be great someday. Just really emphasizing the size difference between them after that match, where he just, instead of like shaking his hand or like, patting him on the back, he just put his head on his knee. Because even sitting down, that's how much bigger Walker is than Axiom.
We got Indus beating Brooks Jensen and Josh Briggs. They did a little thing again. They got to push that whole love story angle of a lot of the terrible stuff. So Brooks loses this match because he's not like his head's not in the game because people aren't talking to each other, and this is all not going to plan from that date that they had with Kiana James and all this BS. But he apologized to Briggs. Briggs said he's going to talk to Kiana James on its behalf. So something's going to happen next week at Roadblock for sure. They're going to have some kind of a confrontation or whatever. It's not the most engaging story I've ever seen in my life, but as far as predictions go for how that angle goes, you guys got anything in mind you think is going to go into one direction or another?
So when I've been saying for months, this should just end up with it being that Fallon has feelings for Briggs. But this setup feels like...
Brooks, you mean, right?
What I say? Yeah, whatever. You get two last names. It doesn't work right. Jensen.
JB and BJ, yeah.
And I feel like they're now setting it up where Josh is going to go see Kiana, and it's going to be either she comes on to him or Jensen's at least going to think something happened there, and then he's going to be mad. I don't know what the end game is for this anymore, but I am loving the bad acting at this point. I've fully just steered into this kid. It's fun, and if nothing else, it actually has people like, oh yeah, Kiana James is one of the more notable stars on the new NXT, so it's working in that regard.
You hit the nail on the head of what I think is going to end up happening with this. I think they're going to do the Briggs ends up with Kiana and turns heel, and then Brooks has Fallon all along type of CW. I think we're getting Brooks Jensen and Fallon Henley against Josh Briggs and Kiana James down the line. Not at Roadblock. It's not happening that fast, but...
Well, no, Roadblock is the next show, and he's going to go see her first.
Yeah, it's not happening at Stand and Deliver either or anything. I think that's sometime in May, maybe.
Like a heat wave kind of thing? Or
yeah,
like in your house?
One of those. In Your House usually comes.
I mean, I've been saying all along this storyline feels like it could end with an In Your House segment, but that's a different kind of house segment.
Wendy Chu got attacked in the parking lot. You know, anytime you're in the parking lot in NXT, there's a chance you might get attacked by an unknown assailant. Really think that they should install some cameras there, but hey. So she apparently has like a legitimate injury, right?
Yeah, as did Nikita. So now it's just, oh, fuck it, we'll write them off our own way.
Curious why they decided to do that instead of just being like, Wendy Chu's injured, because now you have to kind of figure that into the story. And if it's like Tatum Paxley attacked both of them, why the fuck should she do that? Or, you know what I mean? I still think that makes most sense for it to be Tiffany Stratton, but I wasn't expecting the Wendy Chu element of it.
Does Tiffany Stratton, and I know we just got over Toxic Attraction, but does Tiffany Stratton actually, is she in cahoots with Casey and Casey, and they're just the mean girls again?
Well, they had a match, Stratton against Katana Chance. So if they do the whole, like, we're all in it together, it's one of those dumb things. It's like, well, then why'd you fight each other? You know, I don't think that they're in it together. I think at this point, they very clearly decided that they still want to do the whole, like, we don't want Casey and Casey to turn type thing, but Stratton's the obvious pick, and she has already said that she's going to try to go for the title after Roxanne Perez and Meiko Satomura. I think it's a little bit early, but maybe it's just a tease. I don't know.
I'm beginning to think that maybe the women have a ladder match. Because you got Cora, Roxanne, Zoe, Tiffany, and then you just throw in Gigi and JC.
I think we're going to get a different thing with Gigi and JC, but
it might be last one in standing.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
But if you don't want to do that, you do have this option where, hey, we're putting a spotlight on the women that we would normally give to the men.
Mm-hmm. Meiko beat Zoe Stark. Sol Ruka beat Elektra Lopez. Valentina Feroz decided that she does not want to hit any baby faces with the brass knuckles during a match, but she has no problem at all hitting Elektra Lopez with it afterward. I still anticipate that at some point Elektra Lopez is going to be paired off with Lola Vice more than anybody. At least that's what I would do. But that was most of that. Eventually it ended with Carmelo Hayes beating Tyler Bate. And what we got going on now for Roadblock, to get into our predictions for that side of things, we got Dijak against Tony D'Angelo in a jailhouse street fight where you win by locking somebody in the jail cell.
Didn't they do this in TNA with Sting and Abyss?
I don't know. I wasn't watching.
I feel like they did.
Was it Joker Sting or?
No, it wasn't Joker Sting. This is fine. I think Dijak should win.
I don't know who I'm going with right now. I'm kind of 50-50, like every time I think about it. What about you, Callum?
I mean, I'd prefer if Tony D'Angelo won. I just think he's a better character. But if I was just to predict how it would go, I would say that Stax turns on Tony D'Angelo and locks him in this thing and says, like, I'm the Don now. You've been promoting me up and bigging me up. Now I'm the Don. And so maybe it's like hostile takeover type territory.
What's got me confused is D'Angelo is the one that put out the challenge. Whereas Jailhouse
is the justice guy.
Yeah, the Jailhouse idea of it makes more sense for it to be Dijak. And if they wanted to go with like, all right, Dijak does the vengeance thing and he throws people in the jailhouse or whatever. Yeah, I mean, maybe this leads to something with the North American title. Maybe it doesn't. That's what I was thinking originally. But now that it's that you have to win by putting somebody in the cage, Dijak can lose and he doesn't take a pinfall. And you could still, figure out a way to get a triple threat or whatever they want to do. the fact that it's D'Angelo and Stacks against Dijak, in theory, you would think that D'Angelo should win. So I lean more towards D'Angelo more than anybody else, but wouldn't shock me if it's the other way. Wouldn't shock me if both end up getting put in there, to be honest. And it ends up just being like, yeah, it could be something like that. You know, they can fuck around with it. It's not like anybody's going to be like, I want to get my money back for this free show that you have out there. I think Andre Chase is definitely going to lose to Joe Gacy.
Yeah, I thought Roadblock might be the place where they said, okay, do Ava and Thea, and let's see what Ava's got. I'm waiting for them to put her in the ring because that's the most intriguing part of this story currently.
And it's been like 3 years that she's been Performance Center, I think, right? She was out for a while with the injury, so it doesn't really count, but she's been a part of it since, I mean, she was ringside for the pandemic shows.
And you can only work so much in front of your peers. I'm just ready for her to work in front of a crowd and like, let's see what's there.
You think this is going to be the split with Duke Hudson? Like they finally just call it quits?
I'm not sure, honestly.
I'd say no. I think they've lucked into how over Chase U is, and so I think they'd be stupid to just have Duke Hudson go out there, because as soon as Duke Hudson leaves this group, Duke Hudson's nothing.
Yeah, that's true.
So stopping him from starting Duke University.
Maybe some trademarks.
Drat.
I mean, you talk about bad acting. Like that segment on this show, the building up to the Schism versus versus Joe Gacy versus Andre Chase match, just like fucking Thea's face just shaking and like moving her head violently as people were talking. It's just the weird camera angles in front of everybody. It was just absolutely atrocious. Like that would get a low grade on like a high school video editing class or something.
Well, luckily, she's in a university.
Maybe that's not her major. We got... Okay, go ahead.
One of the more interesting things to me, just in general, is this weird universe that NXT has crafted, where there's like a barbershop and a bar and
that's true.
A school, and it's like, and a diner. They go to this diner a lot. Like Shawn Michaels really enjoys these outside settings, which I think is interesting because that's one thing from his career that I don't think he ever did.
You know what? Probably what's the case? He's got Rob Fee working on it, and he's just like, all right, I got another whole set of lore here. The NXT parking lot, there's like this demonic force. Bray Wyatt will tell you about it. That's where originally this all came from, he was in NXT. And my sets are, and then you'd list all the, the cut whiz and everything.
Like, it's an interesting way to present your talent. It's something that is so drastically different from the rest of WWE programming that I just don't know where it constantly fits into NXT.
Somebody should map it out. The way that like people make their own maps of like, all right, this is where the harbor is in Gotham, and this is where Metropolis is in relation to Gotham and all. Somebody just be like, okay, well, if you walk down the side that you see Nikita got attacked in the parking lot, then you'll get to the area where Velveteen Dream had that parking lot brawl thing, and then if you get to this spot, you'll see that that's where Legato abducted this person. Like, somebody do it. I'm not going to be the one that does it. So Gigi Dolan and JC Jane are going up against each other. I think this is going to end in some sort of BS. I don't think we're going to get a finish. And I think that we're going to get a last woman standing match at Stand and Deliver. Last woman standing and delivering match, maybe.
Credit to them for doing this in such a way that immediately made Gigi like a sentimental favorite by bringing up the abusive situation with her mother, and
she didn't bring up her big fat gypsy wedding though.
I don't get it.
She's on that show.
Huh.
Yeah. Really weird.
Nice.
Caroline had it on one day, and it was just like, that's fucking Gigi Dolan. Okay.
It's she did that, and Darby did the sex sent me to the ER. There's been a lot of
and that's
making money in that house.
Yeah. That's a fan tracks for another day.
I think this works. Like, you make Gigi a sentimental favorite. JC is the obvious, like, bitchy heel. Gigi will eventually get some music that fits her character. Now they're their own people immediately. She's looking to end toxic attraction. JC's just looking to win so she can move on to the belt. This is actually way better than I thought it would be. It feels like no one's going to get left behind here.
Who do you think's winning?
JC by shenanigans.
And you think there's a follow-up at Stand and Deliver?
Yeah.
But you're going more,
I think,
multi-woman.
If you're gonna do a multi-women for the women's title, I think this is a great place for them since they're already at that level in NXT.
We got two different paths there. What's the road you think that they're going down, Callum?
JC wins here, and then Gigi wins at Stand and Deliver.
Just a straight up match.
I don't know. They'll probably add some kind of like weapons based twist to the rematch, but honestly, I don't. I mean, I know, the not caring thing is kind of my gimmick, but realistically, in this one in particular, it's just I'm not feeling it. I don't really buy. I want to stress here. I completely buy that what Gigi's saying is true and actually has happened to her. I'm just not that sympathetic towards it.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond the fact, like, I think that it's too rushed for her character to reach that point. It's like she came in and she got attacked by her best friend, who she was more than willing to continue teaming with and remain as toxic attraction a couple of weeks ago until she got beaten up by her, and now we're learning all this stuff about her. Like, straight away, it's like, okay, we're trying to artificially create sympathy for you, like, immediately, like all at once. Like, there's no gradual build up to this, because realistically, this should all just be built around she just wants to beat the shit out of JC Jane because she broke up her team and she was her best friend, and now she just wants to get revenge on her. You don't. After that, once you've had her lose to JC Jane, then you start flooding in all this stuff about how she needed the toxic attraction, and she needed that group because they gave her the kind of like security or the comfort or the kinship that she didn't get at home, and then you can build those layers into it. I think they've just pushed it all super thick straight away, and maybe it'll work. Like, as I say, the crowd seemed to gravitate towards it, but I just felt it was just so like immediately done that I kind of like it's as I say, it's one of those weird things where I totally believed what she was saying, but I also thought it doesn't vibe with your actual character. It vibes with you as the person. Like, I completely believe that's your story, but it doesn't feel like your character's story.
Skipping too many chapters.
You've gone straight from you've gone straight into being like trying to be the super sympathetic babyface straight away. When realistically, it should be a process. Like, she's still Gigi Dolan. She's still like, she hasn't made amends with everyone else in the women's roster or anything like that. Her goal now is to destroy JC Jane, and that's totally fine. That's a totally valid thing after what happened. But they're already trying to make her like uber babyface straight away, and it shouldn't be like that. Look, I'm completely of the mindset that you shouldn't always have to build feuds around people that, like, one has to be the de facto definitive babyface and one has to be the de facto definitive heel. It's a case of these two could still be despised by the entire rest of the roster because they've run roughshod over the company for the better part of 2 years, and nobody likes them outside of each other, and then one turns on the other, and then you gradually build up the process of turning Gigi babyface by having JC continually screw her out of things.
I like the promo. I don't like that they're doing a match next week. Like, if I was booking it, I'm just straight building to whatever singles match you do at Stand and Deliver. Because, like Callum says, it feels rushed. It feels like she went from my best friend attacked me to here's my life story to we're already going to do this thing next week. And I would slow burn it so that, yes, she tells the story as she did, but it doesn't immediately have to play out in this match next week. You can tell more of that story over the 4 or 5 weeks between now and Stand and Deliver.
That's one of the things I guess we're going to figure out when it comes to Tuesday night. I want to make some kind of when one door fails to open, another one closes kind of joke, but I can't think of it. We also have Braun Breaker and the Creed Brothers got to team up against Indu Share, 6-man tag team match. I think it's just a straight up Braun Breaker gets a win, so he looks strong heading into Stand and Deliver type scenario.
They did this backwards, first of all. They should have done the 6-man and then just had Breaker beat Mahal at Roadblock, just so it looks like, hey, Roadblock is headlined by Braun Breaker against a former WWE champion. I did not like that the Creeds went to Damon Kemp. Like,
see, really, I kind of like that. Because I like that they didn't have them do anything beyond just... for anybody who didn't see it, so Creed Brothers are looking for some kind of a tag team partner, and Julius decides, hey, look, we don't have anybody that we can gel with as well as we know that we can with Damon Kemp. And Damon Kemp's like, hey, are you thinking about getting the team back together? And he's like, well, like, it pains me to say it, but yeah. And he goes, well, fuck you, no, and walks away. I like that. Julius is just like, damn it, like, why did I do that? And Braun Breaker comes up and says, I'll join you guys, and Julia says, you couldn't have done this like a minute ago before I made an ass myself. I liked that little swerve because at first I'm thinking, why are they going with the Damon Kemp thing? The Braun Breaker thing is obvious. It was just a nice little, like, gotcha. Why didn't you like it?
Also, I just don't think he should have even considered that. Like, it was only a few months ago that you were trying to kill this guy, wasn't it? Like, what are we doing here? And where is Roderick Strong? I'll say it every week. Where is he?
I am
Get him out of the hospital already.
Fully convinced he's never popping back up again.
He's never popping back up again, no.
No, he's gone and they're setting out his contract. It's got to be that.
Ceremonies end for like one of the important characters of that brand.
Yeah.
I saw one that's that recently that Roderick Strong's been in WWE's developmental for 6.5 years, and the whole run of Nitro was 5 years and 7 months.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's weird to think of. Those are those statistics that really puts things into perspective.
Yeah,
30 years since
how things used to change, and how things technically now, even though things do change, some things change at a rapid pace. Some of it just goes so slowly, and people just stay in the same place for way too long.
Mm-hmm.
Like Nitro, it felt like a whole era, and you can clearly map it out, and that was only a little over 5 years.
I mean, think about it. Like, even though that was only that amount of time, it was enough time for Jarrett to go from Nitro to WWE back to Nitro.
Back to WWE, back to Nitro. No, you're right. It's ridiculous how fast-moving things used to be and how complacent things are now.
Maybe something did happen in 2012. Would explain a lot. Or it's just, that we're on the worst timeline because Brock Lesnar shouldn't have beaten Undertaker. Hashtag Last Jedi sucked. Roxanne Perez is going to beat Meiko Satomura, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it should be a good match.
Yeah, I'm interested to see it. I was surprised when they stood next to each other at this episode. I was like, oh, actually, they're around the same height. I just assumed that
Roxanne's always been small, and I mean, makes Satomura, again, it's not like for the entire culture, but typically Japanese people are fairly small.
I just for some reason had the perspective that Meiko was going to be a lot like not a lot taller.
She's like, used to everybody towering over
right.
her.
For the most part, it's like, she doesn't have to stand next to Raquel to look like she's the tiniest person on the roster. But I was like, she's pretty much right, like eye to eye level with her. So I mean,
just the personality of a tall person.
Mako, yeah.
Yeah.
That's your final boss, when you get to a final boss in a lot of things, they end up having like the second stage where they grow extra wings or fucking, whatever.
Yeah. She's got the personality of final boss and she's got the body of boss baby. And that might be a little harsh, but I'm talking mainly about size thing.
Not at all what I was expecting we would go with. Well, that's the NXT Roadblock that we got coming up. And of course, we have SmackDown tonight, Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan.
Well, you didn't get back around to your Dragon Lee thing. What do you think?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the Grayson Waller thing. Right? So Grayson Waller is going to have the Grayson Waller effect with Shawn Michaels. I expect that it's going to start to look like it's going to get a little physical, and Dragon Lee is going to make the save. And then Shawn Michaels is going to announce Dragon Lee versus Grayson Waller at Stand and Deliver.
It's going to be Johnny Gargano. It should be Johnny Gargano. If they don't do Johnny Gargano, then I don't know if I'm going to like it as much.
I think you're going to be disappointed. What do you think there's going to go with Grayson Waller, Callum?
Oh, I'm just going to wait and see on this one. Both options are, I think, equally plausible.
Given Waller's snarkiness, I'd like it if Shawn Michaels was like, yeah, I agreed to be on the show and talk to you tonight, but I run this show, so to hell with your set, let's do the Heartbreak Hotel. They wouldn't do it, but I think it'd be fun if they did something like that.
It'd get a pop. That's for sure. Again, if anybody pops up from the main roster on NXT or anything like that happens, it does get a pop. But yeah,
really
have more fun with
heavily it. I'm gonna make you do something you said you never would again. I'm gonna make you come out of retirement. They're really trying to make you think Shawn Michaels is gonna fight Grayson Waller, and it's just apologies to anyone who thinks he might, but no.
Here's the real question I have though: if the Heartbreak Hotel were to pop up, where is the hotel located in relation to Cutways and everything?
It's right past the diner so that you can get,
So you got a quick meal when you...
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about AEW. Let's finish out these hot tags by talking about what happened on Dynamite, what we've got set up for Rampage, and our updates to the AEW Revolution card. Started off with Orange Cassidy retaining the All Atlantic Championship over Big Bill. They're not using the 2 G's for Big Bill anymore. And that's
literally just Big Bill.
That's disappointing. I liked it better when it was BIGGBILL. I thought that was kind of fun. But whatever. It's not like that really changes anything. Orange Cassidy.
Match was really good.
What's that?
Match was really good.
Yeah, as expected. And
that's just Orange Cassidy now, isn't it? In a nutshell, it's just like Orange Cassidy has great match of the week.
Mm-hmm. And he actually pulled double duty. We'll talk back about him a little later. We had the Face of the Revolution ladder match. Powerhouse Hobbs winning that one, which we had talked about with our predictions leading up to this. So,
by the way, if I would have known that he was from the area, I wouldn't have guessed that they'd put it on Takeshita.
Yes. Same.
Yeah, none of us had any of that information at a time.
But God, he was so over in that crowd. Like everyone was just super behind Hobbs, and this match, as expected, ruled. Like, it was so good. I think it actually benefited from the fact that they decided to get Kingston and Ortiz out of it, and just they're just going to fight to the back, and it's just a 6-person match, so it's not too over convoluted and crowded. But some of the stuff that they were doing in this match, like that sick Falcon Arrow onto the ladder that
was
seemingly
gnarly.
could have knocked Sammy out pretty badly. The fucking tightrope walking by Commander into that dive to the outside, which is going to be replayed over and over and over again for years and years to come. That was such a cool spot.
I gotta say though, that camera angle had me thinking for about 2 seconds that this dude was just gonna jump from one side of the ring straight over the ropes and outside. And at that point, I would have just believed they should sign him. They should still sign him because that tightrope walk was amazing. Mm-hmm. But Commander is very good.
Yeah, that was like one of the most like I guess viewable moments, and then but alongside that was that blue thunder bomb to Commander from Takeshita. It's like the most incredible blue thunder bomb that you ever see, just going off of a ladder bridge onto the ground. And yeah, they do this far. And I know some people have gotten worked up, as they typically will do. They'll try and find fault in anything about the whole referees holding the ladder up for Hobbs to climb up. It's one of those things. Literally, I can't actually remember the last ladder match which didn't have referee standing underneath when the person won the title or got to the top.
For me, I do wish Hobbs would have gotten a more sturdy ladder, just because you could see the concern on his face, because that ladder was all busted up. But like, yeah, are you really gonna complain that referees came in and held the ladder? Is this what we're doing? Like, get a life.
Mm-hmm.
Get any other hobby, please.
Powerhouse hobby.
I don't like you.
Yeah, it makes two of us. Best friends at this point. Oh, actually, I'll backtrack and talk about this point. Eddie Kingston quit AEW.
And someone had the nerve to ask about that on a media call. I mean, granted, not everybody reads spoilers, but yeah, Eddie Kingston quit AEW.
I thought that. Well, who actually thought that he legitimately quit and then decided to record it on TV and do it as a pre-taped thing? It's like,
the only thing I can say in defense of this guy was it was a local media guy who asked the question. I'm hoping he doesn't really follow.
That's still real to him, damn it.
But yeah, Eddie Kingston quit, and I think it's a good move for him.
Now,
everything that happened with him is good.
With the Ring of Honor stuff, did they air all of the stuff that they had taped, or was it
just?
No, they aired
first episode. So
like session 1.
Yeah,
the first tapings. Yeah.
So we don't have what's going on with Kingston there.
No, they have all. They have all.
No, they had the.
No. They showed that on this episode.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they have. So they filmed obviously all the episodes leading up to.
Not leading up to Supercard.
Supercard.
There might be at least one
name
more.
Of it. But yeah, there might be one more. But I think that they've at least showed quite a significant amount. I mean, it was a 2-hour show. Might as well talk about it because we can go back to Dynamite in a little bit because we can talk about Kingston now anyway. So the main event of the show was Claudio Castagnoli defeated AR Fox to retain the Ring of Honor Championship, and then. The kind of promo afterwards, Kingston comes out, says that he's now a free agent, and so he can go wherever he wants. And he's coming to Ring of Honor. But he basically said, "I promised Mox while we were all in AEW that I wouldn't take you out, but now I'm in Ring of Honor, so I'm taking that championship from you."
Yeah, this was very well done in terms of like, yes, it was a pre-tape, but they masked it by having him say, I'm an independent contractor. I can show up anywhere, and this isn't AEW, and I'm going to beat your ass. That's exactly the way you need to frame it with Eddie Kingston.
Yeah, and I think overall the show was like it was a good show. You had like Willow Nightingale won a match against Lady Frost, like just pretty much an enhancement match, and then she challenged Athena. Athena came out. Basically accepted it. I think their title match is going on next week.
Yep.
That was good. It opened up with Mark Briscoe beating Slim J.
Which is how you should open up Ring of Honor.
Yeah, just to have Mark Briscoe come out and win a match, and he was super over, and the crowd generally throughout the entire thing was very good. To be honest, one of the things that amazed me more than anything else, and maybe this is like just me looking in the wrong place for it, was there were 2 women's matches on this show. And they never do 2 women's matches on Dynamite. But it's just they had directly before you had Willow Nightingale beat Lady Frost, you had Madison Rain and Sky Blue defeated the Renegade Twins in a tag match. And then there was just
and they taped quite a few more, so I think two per show might be a thing.
Yeah. And it was a big just pure wrestling show. I think there was like about 8 matches on the show. It was just like match after match after match. So you had like Mark Briscoe beat Slim J, then you had the Kingdom beat the Infantry, which is Carly Bravo and Captain Sean Dean. Then you had the Zack Sabre Jr. was there, and he defended the New Japan World Television Championship against Blake Christian, which was another fun match because Zack Sabre Jr. is just one of the greatest.
And during that match, he kind of said a little shot to Bryan Danielson. That are you watching? I'm the best technical wrestler in the world, so they're still going to go with that for Forbidden Door, probably, which is good on them.
They had Christopher Daniels defeated Rohit Raju, so Daniels is getting a bit of a renewed push as part of Ring of Honor. They had Konosuke Takeshita defeated Josh Woods, another good match. The Embassy, your Ring of Honor 6-man tag champions, defeated just an enhancement team of Joe Keys, LSG, and Rex Lawless. And I guess Ari Daivari found his level because Ari Daivari defeated the former Grand Metalik in a somewhat of an enhancement match, like maybe a more advanced enhancement match because they still gave Metalik quite a lot in that match. But I thought it was a solid opening. Again, it wasn't anything like super spectacular, but I think this will be a very like stable ground for a lot of AEW's talent to hone their craft.
This makes me wish that there were not two different versions of Dark and that they were at least taping on different sound stages so that it could feel even more unique. Because I thought it's a good looking show. It looked better than even Modern Impact to me, and it's going to be a major show. We know now that it's 2 hours every Thursday, so that's huge. And I can't wait to see what they do with it. I think I heard Athena and Willow Nightingale are going to have a banger. Wouldn't expect anything less. I kind of wish that was a match at Supercard, and I'm wondering what the match at Supercard will be if it's not Willow. But yeah, I was a big fan of all of this. I actually like that Ring of Honor is back. It seems like it's in good hands.
I don't know if I'm going to end up checking it out at any point.
You're absolutely not going to check it.
I mean, I feel like I have to at least give it a shot, but it does strike me as the type of thing where I'm going to be like, do I really want to invest time in seeing Ari Daivari against Metalik? I don't think I need to,
I think we'll cover the pay-per-views, but I can't see this being a show that you watch week to week.
I highly doubt it.
Same way that Callum doesn't watch Raw.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say that, the smartest thing they've done is make Eddie Kingston pretty much exclusive to this show. I think that will immediately help draw eyes to it because I'm not saying he's got the biggest following in the world, but there are people that are diehard Eddie Kingston fans, especially after how well his AEW run has gone so far. And so for him to be pretty much exclusive there and no longer on AEW TV, I think that will be something that draws people's eyes to this show.
Small thing, but the show aired perfectly fine. The live streaming component of it, perfect.
Yeah. Now, about the idea that bleeds into Impact, how do you feel about that?
What, you just want me to bitch?
Yes.
Complain? Yeah, I think it's fucking terrible. I think it's oversaturation in the market, and I don't have the luxury of choosing what I want to watch. So yeah, I think that aspect of it is awful. Thank you for making me have to be negative, Cody. You had me
feeling that urge to merge a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I was right about Bray Wyatt. I was just gonna bounce around.
We've already done that. We did that 2 hours ago. But I'll say it again. Yes, you were right, and I hate you for it.
Powerhouse hobby. So the Ring of Honor stuff, yeah, I'll potentially try to give it a shot. We'll see. But going back to AEW and the Dynamite situation, Best Friends were not medically cleared to compete in the Casino Battle Royale. So taking their place, Danhausen and Orange Cassidy pulling double duty. Again, we'll come back to that because we had to do the Chris Jericho versus Pretty Peter Avalon match. Obviously, Jericho won that. And we got, some follow-up with that. But other than that, I thought was really all that interesting. It's just one of those, and people start fighting kind of deals.
I liked how the match was essentially Peter Avalon was pissed at Jericho because of what happened last week, and so he just attacked Jericho for ages and ages and ages, and Jericho hit one codebreaker and won. That's just a pretty smart way of doing it. It makes Peter Avalon look like he
cares.
and it's like it can be a good fiery underdog babyface, but the Jericho is just miles and miles above his level, so he can beat him with one move, not even his finisher.
Makes Andretti look really good too for being able to beat him. So plays into all of that.
Anything you guys want to touch on with the Hangman promos, the Moxley promo, any of that? To me, it was just sort of, I'm going to beat you, I'm going to beat you. So, yeah.
They're both great promos.
No, it was great mic work. One thing that was a bit concerning, did Hangman not say that he cannot feel his fingertips?
I think it's just emphasizing.
I mean, I would hope so.
Yeah. I think it's just a case of trying to push the thing. Why we say it's like he's lost his memory and stuff like that. Just like, well, yeah, I assume he has suffered like a bit of damage and probably can't remember the events of the day that happened after that injury. But it's not like you make it sound like you can't remember like days that you spent with your children or something like that. And I don't know. Only he knows like how bad that injury was and how badly that's affected him. So I can't read into too much like that. But I'm hoping it's just exaggeration for the sake of building up the match. But I mean, I really like the visual of Moxley just straight after the match with Evil Uno, like blood gushing down his right eye, pretty much having his eye shut by the amount of blood that was pouring out into it. Just like cutting this really heat promo, and nobody does those sort of promos better than Moxley. And Page's one was very good. I don't think it was at the level of Moxley's one because Moxley's just on promo ability. There's like different levels, and he's right at the very top. But yeah, it still leaves me just as excited, if not more excited, for how violent the Texas Death Match is going to be.
Still the match I'm looking forward to the most.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to that. That's going to be a lot of fun. We got the situation with Christian Cage coming out, talking to Renee Young, or Renee Paquette, I should say. She's not Renee Young anymore. And that's going to lead to, which has now actually been changed a little bit. It's a no holds barred match. Christian Cage against Jungle Boy Jack Perry. So that's our major addition to the card that we can announce at least right now. And that's going to be a lot of fun. Jungle Boy probably should win that one.
He should, but I'm not sure he will.
There's a chance he might not. I mean, Luchasaurus could return. They could do some other kind of twist in it. If it's no holds barred, that certainly allows possibility for somebody to interfere.
I'd personally think that you'd have Jack Perry win just to draw a line under this feud. I think they've done a good job in completely reviving it and adding maybe not the same degree of emotion, but at least a solid amount of emotion into it in the last few weeks. I mean, this one with Christian still proving to be like an excellent like irritator of people on the mic and doing some great stuff and building up the story of how. But the one line that was great was the idea that Jungle Boy sees wrestling as a video game, whereas he sees it for what it is, which is an ATM that he's going to keep bleeding until it's dry. It's just like, again, just makes him look like a prick because he doesn't see wrestling for like the beauty of the sport or anything like that. He sees it as a way to make money, so he'd still treat him as a heel. And then the whole angle of Jungle Boy burying Christian or like metaphorically putting him in the ground, I think that's the indication that this should probably be like drawing the line under it. So and you have Perry win, and then he can I think that should put him in place for a TV match against MJF for the title in the next couple of months.
Yeah, for that. Hook retained the FTW title over Matt Hardy.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Now he gets Stokely for 5 minutes?
Yeah. So the story that had been built up for it, I don't know whether this is on Dark or on Rampage, but the idea was that Hardy was going to challenge for the FTW title because Ethan Page put him up for it, and then Matt started adding all these extra stipulations like, I'm gonna beat Hook, I'm gonna become the FTW champion, and I'll even put something in the contract where if Hook beats me, then he gets a one-on-one match with Stokely Hathaway where everyone from the firm is banned from ringside. And so you kind of had this it's kind of like a weird dynamic because he wrestled the match like he wanted to win because he knew the title was on the line. But then as soon as he was put in Red Rum, he immediately tapped out.
Yeah.
So basically he said, okay, I tried to win, I've lost, and I'm just going to tap out because realistically, if I'm not going to win, I just want to see Stokely Hathaway get beaten up.
So. That'll be fun. Put that on the pre-show.
Apparently, Hardy said on Twitter that he's going to be training Stokely Hathaway to be an absolute killing machine. So I hope they do some of those vignettes on Rampage or Dynamite.
Yeah, that could be funny. Toni Storm she lost to Riho. That's what it was. Yeah. It was Toni Storm against Riho. Riho won. Riho has been somebody that I have mentioned multiple times. We've talked about the idea that she could be part of the AEW original side of things. So bringing her into this makes a lot of sense. Again, not my favorite type of segment in the world, but it's a thing. They do something with it. Yeah. Whatever.
Only thing I didn't like here was Saraya and Jamie start fighting. Out comes Ruby. Ruby decks Saraya. And Jamie stands there. Why wouldn't Ruby hit her when you're going into a three-way? Can you just, I know they're trying to really stand on, the pick a side, but you're going into a three-way for the championship. You should at least have your guard up a little bit. That's me nitpicking, though.
Here's a little backstage thing that I thought was funny. Dustin Rhodes and Keith Lee are a tag team now that are going to be calling themselves Naturally Limitless. That's kind of perfect.
Keith Lee moves from one tag team partner to the next.
I hope that this is not a long-term deal.
No, I don't think it'll be long-term. It's a good name for a one-off team.
I'm hoping that Keith Lee in AEW isn't a long-term deal. I still want Keith Lee back in WWE. But yeah, I don't think that this is going to be some tag team we're going to be talking about by the end of the year or anything.
Well, frankly, by the end of the year, Dustin said he was retiring.
I mean, frankly, yeah, at this point, we talked about the idea that I kind of just want to see Dustin go to WWE for WrestleMania, even. And just be like, look, let's just, shit or get off the pot, kind of, when it comes to some of this. Well, we had the Casino Battle Royale finishing this out beyond, as far as the matches go. And some fun moments throughout this. I mean, Battle Royales, they're fun. So you got a lot of little spots here and there, and it ultimately ends up going to Danhausen and Orange Cassidy winning. Not the team I was anticipating, especially because they weren't even supposed to be in the match to begin with. But
there was no real Joker entry, and I hate that because
okay, so that's the thing that a lot of people brought up, which is something that I misinterpreted as well. So there's a difference between a casino battle royal for either singles men or women and a casino battle royal for tag teams or trios. So, and it's a case if you look back over the past where they've done it as well, the tag team casino battle royal is essentially a tag team Royal Rumble. And that's it. They don't have a Joker for the tag teams. And they've never had, and I don't think they've ever had a Joker for the tag teams.
Well, I'm sad about it. What can I say?
Yeah, they only do that style of casino battle royal for singles people, which I guess kind of makes sense because having 5 teams come out at once, that seems like it might be a bit much. But yeah, so that's the reason why there wasn't a Joker. You essentially just have the quote unquote number 10, or in this case number 10, or the Royal Rumble case number 30 comes out. They get the luck of the draw, and I think personally, just as Royal Rumbles go, this was pretty weak. There wasn't really that much that happened up until the closing segments, outside of the fact that apparently the Lucha Bros are now feuding with Tony Nese and Josh Woods. Cool. But yeah, I think it's purely a case of this tag team match, this 4-way tag match for the titles, is basically for teams that are not all entirely, but they are largely comedy based, all fighting for the tag titles. And I think it's also a case of we want to put Orange Cassidy on the card because Orange Cassidy is one of our best wrestlers right now. He's in the form of his career. So yeah, of course we're going to find a way to put him on this show.
I am surprised that that's how they did it, though, instead of just being and we're going to announce on Rampage he's defending the All Atlantic title against blah, blah, blah.
Well, I mean, just for the sake of keeping the card relatively concise, knowing that you've got an hour-long match, I guess in some way I'm grateful for the fact that they're not putting on an additional match that we have to watch as well. Not that it wouldn't be good, because Orange Cassidy is having nothing but great matches right now. But yeah, I'd rather they freed up a bit more time just so they can get the show done before 4 a.m.
Yeah. Well, I was just anticipating that would be a pre-show match, because they've done that before.
They could have done that.
But then, we're going to get that factor in there. So has that changed your opinions about who is going to win the tag team title match? Do you guys think it's going to be Danhausen and Orange Cassidy, or do you think it's leaning more one way or another? Because I'm currently still kind of bouncing around between Guns retain, Acclaimed win them back, or Jarrett and Lethal. At this particular moment, leaning more towards Jarrett and Lethal.
I'm fully Gun Club's still going to retain. I thought whatever team was going to be put into it, Guns are still going to retain.
And that's just about even to me with the Jarrett and Lethal thing, but yeah.
Danhausen is getting pinned. Whether he is getting pinned by the Guns or by Jeff Jarrett remains to be seen. Just for shits and gigs, I'm going to say Jeff Jarrett's a new AEW Tag Team Champion.
Our finale of this episode was to build more of the Danielson and MJF setup for the 60-minute Iron Man match. I keep wanting to call it a 60-man because I'm so used to the 30-man Royal Rumble, the past discussions. So, they cut their promos and stuff. Typical fashion, fun segment, enough to watch. I mean, you can't really go wrong with what's going on with what they're setting up here. And I was looking forward to it before. I'm looking forward to it now.
Yeah, I mean, you said that they cut promos at each other. Fundamentally, Danielson says tells MJF to shut up, and he doesn't say anything for this entire segment. But yeah, Danielson
fucking roasted this guy.
Yeah, he just shit was really cutting at the fact, saying the only thing you deserve is having your girlfriend leave you, your fiance leave you. So that got a big reaction from the crowd, obviously, and it had MJF super angry. But then he pushes the idea of, he turns it back on him, saying that he's the heel by saying that how he would always talk about banging rats from town to town or whatever. So it's the idea of of course your girlfriend left you. You're cheating on her flagrantly in front, as your character. So, that's the difference with the character side of things. And yeah, he talks about how he's going to expose him and show that he's not on his level. And then in the greatest part of it, especially if you're from the UK and you can watch the live feed without any kind of censoring or interruption, he basically says, if you don't come to Revolution to fight for 60 minutes, then you're going to get your fucking head kicked in.
And he said fucking, and it was great.
Yeah, it was so good.
And I watched it on Fight, and I heard them not bleep it, so so good.
Yeah, super excited for that match. So there's a lot of great matches lined up for Revolution, but this is the one that I'm super excited to see how it plays out.
I'm more looking forward to Revolution than the last God knows how many pay-per-views that they've done, to be honest.
It's so funny that Danielson has everybody now I want to see him win.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he has a shot. And it's yeah, good. They did their job. That's their job. You're supposed to want to see Danielson win. You're supposed to think he has a shot. And my opinion hasn't changed. I still think Max is winning. But I'm going to be mad if Danielson wins.
No. I would say that the one thing, though, that I find quite funny about our review of this thing is that we talk about all this stuff, and so insignificant it was that we didn't even touch on the House of Black attacking the Elite.
Oh, that's right.
It was such a lame, okay, they just attacked them on the ramp and then held up the titles towards the end and a promo backstage segment. And I guess the story now is that the Elite have to find where that room is so they can get their titles back. Yeah, this.
So just real quick,
I'll just say I'm not. No, I know I'm not
You're
the AEW
defend that
defender.
One.
Yeah, I'm always the AEW defender guy, but that just sucks. This has been a bad story.
Yeah, just real quick to everyone who's oh, it's gotta be the House of Black. It still ain't the House of Black for me. I don't want to see them win. The Elite stuff is kind of feeling. I'm going to use the term Codyverse just in that concept of like, it feels like Jericho does his thing, the Elite do their thing,
and then Tony Khan does this thing with like MJF and like other people.
No, it's like the Jericho thing feels isolated in some ways. The Elite stuff feels very isolated, and then everybody else interacts with each other. Because like this was just not good. And I mean, if you're just going for a good match, then just say that at this point. Like, why are the House of Black getting a shot? You know, what is the story here? Is someone going to argue that we don't need a story? I'd argue that they're three of the biggest stars you have. Why aren't you focusing on the story of the Elite? You know, it's, again, I'm foolishly hoping that they've got Punk available and that's coming soon. Because believe it or not, the next show after this is Double or Nothing, which means we're entering a territory of, oh, it's been a year of fuckery for this company. So I hope that they fix it out with the Elite, because there's still a major reason that I watch. There's still a major reason that a lot of people watch. And if I went to that show, or if I'm tuning in just for them, I felt very cheated on Wednesday night.
Can't say I disagree. So we'll see if they end up having that great match that it seems like it pretty much boils down to is, hey, look, these guys are going to have a good match. Hopefully they do. We'll see that on Sunday when we do our AEW Revolution pay-per-view coverage. Pay-per-view point post-show is immediately following that. Stay tuned to make sure that you are subscribed. You ring that little notification bell. Make sure that you are following all over the other place for Smark Out Moment, as well as for Fanboys Anonymous. Take part in all the stuff we talked about earlier. You got the Dusty Rhodes Funko Pop contest that's going on. We got the Smark Madness tournament. We got the Blueprint Project over there on Fanboys Anonymous. And of course, you should be following just all the accounts that you can see on anthonymango.com, like my personal accounts, mostly at Tony Mango. And if you are in the mood to click and like on a whole bunch of other things as well, you got like my Letterboxd and so on and so forth. But you should especially be following what these guys are up to for their accounts and what they've got to plug.
Yep, you can follow me everywhere at Dude Felice. Eventually, you're going to get a whole lot more from me. I just sent in the first blog for dudefelice.com. I'm pretty sure it's going to get up on that website. When it does, everything's going to launch, so that's exciting. Check out my work on Fightful. Check out my work on WrestleZone. Check out my work everywhere else, including in the archives of Smark Out Moment. There's a ton of stuff featuring me at this point. I've been on basically every podcast we've done for the last 5 years, and I will continue to be on this podcast for years to come. But for now, someone else who will be with me, Helen Wiggins.
Oh, you can find me on Twitter at Weekmeister14. Over on the Smark Moment, where you'll always find me is on the Power Rankings, which is my weekly contribution where I rank the WWE wrestlers as I see fit. And as we build up towards WrestleMania, you'll be able to see the league table that I have attached to it, where you can see who will be the front runners for this year, who would be the powerest of the Power Rankings. And then you can also check out the Fantasy League, which, again, just more and more stats, more and more tracking of numbers and performances, where you can follow which one of our teams is performing the best heading into WrestleMania, where we will crown our 2022-2023 winner. So every point matters at this point. So stay tuned to that over at wwefantasyleague.com.
Still not going to win. I'm mad about
it. You never know. Crazy things could happen. We don't even know what the card for WrestleMania is.
If John Cena's going back soon to actually get points for you.
Could win a United States Championship
all year.
So obviously we got lots coming your way over the course of this road to WrestleMania. Stay tuned for all of it. Revolution coming up next. Next week we got the Hollywood discussion and another round of the hot tags. We also have that Pick a Poison that's going to be coming up and so much more. Man, my to-do list just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But hey, you should follow us for the journey along the whole way, just like you listened to this episode. And thank you for that. We will see you next time. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and we are being counted out.